Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm working on my friend's 2017 VW Alltrack. I think it's pretty much the same as the Crosswagon. And then as far as the brakes are concerned, it's basically the same for all the different Golf variants. Maybe similar for the Jetta as well. I can't speak to that. Yeah, today we'll be doing rotors and pads on all four corners. These ones are pretty bad from what I've heard. We'll be using the Assembled by ECS Tuning kit from their website, which is Zimmerman Rotors, and it also comes with all new hardware. These VWs do use torque to yield hardware, so good to have that. First thing we'll do is remove the wheels. It's a 17 mil lug on this. I'll also be doing voiceover throughout this video just because I had a couple friends in the shop and we were kind of shooting the shit the whole time. So I figured you guys wouldn't want to hear that. So I'll just be doing voiceover afterwards, but apologies for that. So there you go, wheel off, 17 mil on those. Pull them all off. I got the car up on the quick jacks. Here's a quick look from the manual on how to remove the calipers. So it's a 17 mil wrench you'll have to hold on the inside. And then it's a T45 Torx that you'll need to put on the back there. There's the T45. So you use your 17 mil wrench to hold the pin in place and then break it loose with it. So once those are removed, you can pull the caliper off itself. You might need to use a pry bar to kind of loosen it off a little bit depending on how rusty everything is. This car's got quite a bit of rust. I think it was from Alberta at one point. So there you go, calipers off. Then use a bungee cord or a little bit of mechanics wire to just twist it up so that you don't have a lot of stress on the brake line itself. There you go. Here's the manual on where the bolts are to remove the caliper carrier. So 2 bolts back there, they are 21 millimeter, and they are pretty tight. So yeah, you got your 21 millimeter wrench there or 21 millimeter socket. Throw that on the back and break them loose. Once those are loose, then the carrier itself will come off, and then you only have one more step to take the rotor off itself. Take a look at these pads and how bad they were. They were right down to the pins there, and they had actually gouged a pretty good groove in the back of the rotor as well. So next we'll remove the bolt holding the rotor itself on. That is a Torx bit as well. It's a T30. Good idea to put a little bit of penetrating fluid on there. So there's your T30 bit, and I just use my impact to get this off, but just be careful not to strip it out. Pretty hard with the Torx though, unless it's really corroded in there. So that one came out easy enough. A little bit more penetrating fluid just around the rotor itself. Again, these are pretty corroded, so that rotor did not want to come off. I had to use the sledge to persuade it a little bit. There you go, off she comes. And we'll definitely be putting some anti-seize on this when we put the new one back in. Here's a look at that rotor, and you can see the gouge that's in the back of that rotor from how bad that one brake pad was. So then we'll start just cleaning everything up. We got brake clean on there, hitting it with a wire brush. Try and get all the corrosion you can off of there. We want that mating surface for the new rotor to be super clean and for that to mate up really nice and evenly on there. Once we get that all clean and wiped off with some brake clean, we'll put some anti-seize on there. And, you don't want to put too much. Just want a nice even coat on everything, and a relatively thin coat as well, because you don't want that rotor to not be able to sit nice and even on the mating surface. So little thin coat. There we go. New rotor's back on. This is working on the other side now. We got some of our new hardware. So the new bolt to hold the rotor will go in. Again, that's a Torx bit T30. Hold that in place. We will throw the torque specs up here in a second, but I believe it's 8 Newton meters. And we've got a picture from the factory service manual here, which will show the specs. There you go. That's the number 4 bolt there. That's 8 Newton meters. So now we're going to remove the brake reservoir cap. So as we push that piston back into the caliper, a little bit of fluid might come back into the reservoir. So just remove that cap and keep an eye on it. And now we're using this tool to push that piston back into the caliper. You can also do this with a combination of pry bars, but these tools are cheap. I highly recommend you just get one, and they save a lot of time. So that's pushing that caliper back all the way back into the piston. Okay, now we're putting the caliper carrier back on. That's that 21 mil bolts. We have new hardware on there as well. And torque spec for these is 200 Newton meters, which is the equivalent of, I believe, 145 foot-pounds. So pretty high torque on these. They are torque to yield, so you are literally stretching that bolt a little bit. There's your torque spec, 200 Newton meters for number 10. Now we're getting those pads on there, just using a little bit of the anti-seize on the mating surfaces. These have anti-squeal pads on the back of the pads themselves, so you don't really need to put any on there, but mostly where the pad itself is sliding on that carrier is where you want to put that anti-seize. Just make sure you don't get any of it onto the pad itself or onto the rotor. Calipers go back in, and we'll start putting those pin bolts back in as well. Those are those T45s. And we'll have the torque specs here in a second. You'll need that 17 mil wrench to keep the pin from spinning as you torque it as well. Here's your manual, 35 Newton meters for those T45 bolts that go in there. Okay, moving on to the back. Same idea, we got our 17 mil wrench to hold it, the pin from spinning, and breaking both of them loose, top and bottom. Once we get those off, we'll pull that caliper up, and on the back here I actually found a way of just kind of mounting it so that it wouldn't be hanging. I didn't have to use any safety wire or mechanics wire or a bungee cord. There comes the bottom one. Okay, now we're pulling off that caliper itself. Again, you might need to use a pry bar to get it off, and I just kind of finagled it in there on top of the torsion beam there, so that there wasn't any stress on the brake line itself. The hardest part about the rear here is taking off the carrier itself. The bolts are very hard to access, and they are extremely high torque. They are a triple square MT14 is the bit, and they are very hard to get at back there. Couldn't get a breaker bar on there. We had to use a combination of a ratchet and some wrenches onto the back. We could get at kind of 1.5 of them with our impact, which broke them loose. Even when they did break loose, it took a really long time to get them out of there, just because I think the bolts are stretched and this car was very corroded. So, you know, maybe for you they'll come out easier. I truly hope they do, but we had to fight with it for a while. Easily the hardest part of the job. Anyway, once those come off, then you can take the rotor off the same way you did in the front, removing the bolts. Clean it all up with your wire brush. Get that anti-seize on there, nice good layer. Smooth it all out, and then you're ready to put your new rotors on. New rotors going on. Again, we've got new hardware, so we'll put in that T30 torque screw on there. Torque that down to 8 Newton meters, same as the front. And we're ready to put the carrier back on. 8 Newton meters for that. To put the carrier back on, it's just as you took it off. The torque is 90 Newton meters plus 90 degrees, so that's stretching the bolt there. To push this piston back in, it's a bit tricky. There is a specific tool, but you can use needle nose pliers and just push and twist at the same time. It's a bit tricky, and it's kind of a two-man job, but if you work at it long enough, they will go in. Here's a picture from the manual of how the pads go in. Same as the front, put a little bit of anti-seize on the mating surface there, but don't get any on the pad itself, obviously. Once those pads are on, you can go ahead and put that caliper back on, and we'll show you that here. There's the caliper going back on, and then again, you'll need that 17 mil to hold the pin in place so it doesn't rotate, and it is a Torx. The new ones on this one were a Torx, so maybe the rears have been done before. It was a Torx bit, and I couldn't get my torque wrench back there, so I couldn't do the torque specs. So I just did it as the Germans do, did it good and tight. Cleaned it all up, get your wheels back on, 17 mil, and you are done. Torque those to spec as well. I believe the torque for the Volkswagen is 80 foot-pounds, but you can look that one up. I can't remember off the top of my head. Quick Google search will find that one for you. Torque it to spec, and she's all done. Check your brake fluids, give your brake pedal a couple pumps, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks a lot, guys.